Ladies and gentlemen, if you want the fact, here it is. The altcoin market has seen a massive blow, a blow through which it possibly could not fully recover from in a normal and traditional cyclical sense. Now, this is not a joke, it's very, very serious. Ethereum and altcoins are possibly the weakest we've ever seen them from a cyclical perspective, which is the only thing we have, really, if we're being real. The Bitcoin 4-year cycle, as we discuss to the point of brain-numbing extents here, is the thing that keeps the market going. Cryptocurrency is driven by the 4-year cycle. Ever since the first halving in 2012, every single bull market and every single bear market we have seen have played out in accordance with that 4-year cycle. And of course, Bitcoin being the leader of the cryptocurrency market and the beholder of the 4-year cycle, it has led altcoins into altcoin seasons and into altcoin downturns with that 4-year cycle as its banner, okay? Now, to cut out the gibberish, to cut out the yibby yappa there, basically, Bitcoin leads the market. Right now, we're seeing altcoins deviating from Bitcoin's lead quite heavily and going downwards very massively at a time in which they should not be doing so. So how can we validate this claim? How do we know that altcoins are not doing well? What will altcoins do in the future? Will they recover? We'll discuss all of this today, and we'll try and keep it brief and simplistic. You probably need to understand this because obviously a lot of people in the market are only interested in altcoins, but perhaps now is the time to be cautious rather than too optimistic. Now, for full clarity before we get into it, if Bitcoin does continue to the upside, and if we do continue to see a cryptocurrency bull market, I do expect altcoins to rally, but I do think it will be fundamentally different to what we've seen before. I'll explain all of this today. Let's get into it. Before we get into it today, guys, we have an exchange here that has never been hacked before in 3.5 years of being on the market. That is global non-KYC. You can sign up from anywhere in the world and use this exchange without a VPN. And furthermore, with my referral link down below, you can get a 15% trading fee discount attached to your account for life, as well as $8,000 plus USDT in trading rewards added to your account as trading bonuses for signing up with my referral link down below. This is big stuff here. It's an excellent deal. I reached out to them for partnership. They did not reach out to me. I don't get paid by them. The only thing I get is a referral link. And if you want all those things I just mentioned, which you should, trust me, I've done the scouting of the market, you can use my link down below to sign up. It takes 30 seconds and you'll get those rewards and bonuses and you'll help out the channel. I appreciate that, guys. Let's get into the content. Ethereum is the leader of the altcoin market, and there's a few major signs on the Ethereum chart, especially in comparison to Bitcoin, that Ethereum and altcoins as a whole are not really where they need to be. Now, the first major sign we can simply see by overlaying the Ethereum chart in red onto the Bitcoin chart, which is the candlestick chart right here. And you can see through the last cycle, when Bitcoin broke its all-time high, right here, it broke above its prior all-time high, Ethereum followed through very shortly and did the same, right? That happened within a couple of weeks. Now, this time when Bitcoin broke its all-time high, let's just go ahead and say it broke its all-time high over here in November and ignore the deviation here in March. Ethereum didn't do the same. In fact, Ethereum rejected from a very long-term, 9-month-long resistance zone just below its prior all-time high, and then crashed downwards around 60%, right? So it's a completely different ballgame this time. Instead of rallying through and following Bitcoin into all-time high territory, Ethereum saw a triple top formation and a major breakdown below 2 separate macro support zones with a huge, huge crash, right? That's the first sign, and a very obvious sign that something's a little wrong here. Something's not right. We can then go ahead and check some structural formations for Ethereum, and we can go ahead and see that in our last cycle, we had a basic kind of 5-step or 6-step structure on Ethereum. Step 1 was topping out. Step 2 was seeing a dead cat bounce. Step 3 was bottoming out. Step 4 was seeing a retest and establishing our bear market resistance zone. Step 5 was breaking that resistance zone, and step 6 was skyrocketing to all-time highs. So a 6 kind of step pattern that we followed all the way up until step 5 this time. We saw step 1, step 2, step 3 bottoming out, step 4 establishing bear market resistance, step 5 breaking bear market resistance, but we saw no step 6, where step 6 was meant to be right here, where Ethereum was meant to break all-time highs and go into a massive rally, which should have happened in late 2024. We actually saw Ethereum instead, saw a triple top formation and go downwards. So not only did it, fail to keep up with Bitcoin and fail to do what it did in the last cycle, it also, on its own basis, ignoring Bitcoin, completely invalidated its own structural trend that it had forming, and it was following very, very well up until the middle of last year, and it completely fell apart. Goes beyond Ethereum though. If we look at the altcoin market cap chart in general, which is the total 3 cryptocurrency market cap chart, the market cap chart excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, so looking purely at altcoins here, we can see that just like in the last cycle, we were following it quite nicely. We're seeing a nice rounding formation ready to go right back up to the upside. Nice rounding formation ready to go back to the upside. But instead of breaching all-time highs, which happened in the last cycle about 9 months before the expected cyclical top, instead of doing that, right, we came right up to all-time highs and rejected it. Right, rejected from that all-time high. We've been in a downwards trend ever since for the last 5 months. Not only that, we've broken below a major momentum indicator support that lasted for 2.5 years, almost 3 years. So everything's just kind of gone wrong here. Before we end off with the bad news, I'll just throw in a little more things here. Just top it off. Bitcoin dominance chart, another good way to understand how altcoins are performing against Bitcoin, simply through a percentage measurement of how much money is in altcoins versus in Bitcoin. So it's at 63% right now, which means that 63% of every single dollar in cryptocurrency sits in Bitcoin. If that chart goes down, obviously that means more capital is shifting towards altcoins and altcoins are gaining dominance in the market. When this chart goes down, hence, it means we're in an altcoin season. And these altcoin seasons we've seen historically have always happened in a Bitcoin bull market because that's when people put their money into altcoins after Bitcoin rises. All right, that's how it works. People get greedy. They put their money into altcoins. Altcoins rise. That's how altcoin seasons occur. It only happens during a bullish market environment, and Bitcoin has to move first to attribute that or to allow that market environment. These altcoin seasons have historically lasted 315 days on both occasions. And in order for the altcoin season to last 315 days this time, we would have had to see it start back here in November. And it was starting back here in November. But unfortunately, in the last few months, we've just invalidated it. We've just come right back up and we've formed a new local high. And now we cannot see that altcoin season last 315 days, which means we cannot see it last the regular period of time until the 4-year cycle ends, which means we've seen some sort of major deviation here in the altcoin market. Something's wrong. Now, we can sit here and discuss what may have caused that. Could be a wide variety of things. Could be tariffs, could be ETFs, could be anything really, right? Could be social media, could just be changes in market dynamics that are undetermined. The fact of the matter is this. Altcoin seasons have always been triggered by the 4-year cycle. They've always been triggered via Bitcoin going parabolic first. People get greedy. They flip their money from Bitcoin into altcoins. They seek higher returns. I think fundamentally this cycle has just been a little different. Now, let's just clarify here. It's not different in the sense that the 4-year cycle is broken. The 4-year cycle is still intact as we speak, and it will still be intact unless Bitcoin drops below something like 70,000. So forget about that. The 4-year cycle is still intact at this point. We can still expect it at this time to work. But the difference this cycle has been, unlike the last couple of cycles where we've gone parabolic, we've gone right to the upside, people have gotten greedy, they've chucked their money in, it's gone up really fast. We've seen a different kind of market environment where we've seen, instead of this parabolic move, it looks like it on a macro scale, but in reality, we've seen a big jolt to the upside, 6 months of consolidation, a big jolt to the upside, 9 months of consolidation, a big jolt to the upside, 7 months or 5 months of consolidation. It's been slightly different, right? There's been these long, drawn-out breaks which kind of crush any sense of hype and any sense of greed that people may have. And of course, it's only through that hype and greed that altcoin seasons can really emerge. So the slow pace on a macro scale of the market this cycle very well could have crushed the spirit of altcoins and prevented an altcoin season to occur, even while the 4-year cycle remains valid. But this is kind of aside from the point. We can, look at justifications all day. That's probably my leading theory. The fact of the matter is the 4-year cycle is still intact, right? And although altcoin season's not happening right now, and it's not happening conventionally, and altcoins are kind of getting wrecked right now, it doesn't necessarily mean the entire cycle is broken, and it also doesn't necessarily mean that altcoins won't go up in the future. It just means they'll go up in a different way, perhaps in a slower way, perhaps not as exciting, perhaps more risky, perhaps just completely different as a whole. It's impossible to know because we haven't seen it before. Fundamentally, even though there has been this massive shift in market dynamics and altcoins are underperforming dramatically due to whatever it may be, the money flow cycle in cryptocurrency still remains the same until proven otherwise. Now, what is the money flow cycle in cryptocurrency? Well, it's the simple concept of money in a bear market, right, starts out in US dollars. People then invest into Bitcoin. It's the main asset they invest into a bear market, right? From there, Bitcoin rallies. We see the start of a bull market. Then people get greedy. They flip their money into altcoins and Ethereum. Altcoins and Ethereum max out. There's no more people to come into the market, and hence people start selling. They crash, and they flip their money back into USDT, and then the cycle resets. That is the 4-year cycle money flow. That's how cryptocurrency has always worked. I don't see it working any other way. It's never worked any other way. So regardless of the deviations we're seeing right now, that money flow cycle still holds true, meaning that if Bitcoin does continue this bull market, we should see it continue on some scale, perhaps a smaller scale, but on some scale it should continue. So altcoins probably aren't dead. Ethereum probably isn't dead for good, but perhaps they've taken a fatal, not a fatal because that would imply they are dead, but a serious blow, a serious injury, right? That prevents them from doing things like they've done before on the same scale. That is a very, very possible scenario. So I suppose I'm just making this video to make you understand what's going on with altcoins. I've given you my theory on why it is possibly occurring. I think it's because of the different market dynamics with Bitcoin right now. Instead of seeing this massive parabolic move, we're seeing these pumps that last about a month and then long drawn out consolidations, pumping again, long drawn out consolidation. And I don't think that's an environment that breeds hype and greed, which is necessary for altcoin seasons to truly occur. It doesn't necessarily mean that the 4-year cycle is dead, and hence it doesn't necessarily mean that altcoins are dead, because altcoins will rise if Bitcoin does, but it could mean that altcoins have been dampened significantly. And so I suppose what I'm saying is, before you get too excited about chucking your money into altcoins that are quote unquote cheap, just remember, for something to be considered cheap, it has to actually rise significantly again, and that will be a little bit harder if this theory, if this market environment holds true. Guys, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. We have 3 days left on the final VIP sale I will ever be doing. This is the final one ever. It's $50 on Telegram, and as you can see, we get 4 altcoin trading signals posted per week. You get access to a group chat. $50, 3 days left. Check it out if you're interested. And lastly, I'll swing back around to the Bitunix exchange. It's an exchange that is global, non-KYC, that's never been hacked before, that you can sign up to without a VPN. All of these things are very, very important. And finally, it's an exchange that has hundreds of trading pairs that you can get a 15% trading fee discount on with my referral link down below, attached to your account for life. So use my link down below to sign up and get that discount. You can save thousands just by doing that if you use this exchange regularly. It helps out the channel a lot, and lastly, it helps out you, which is very, very important as well. So that link is down below. Check it out, guys. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll catch you soon.